what we're going to start with is who are you, how are you, and have you read The Untethered Soul? And I'm going to call on you to answer. So, Betty, can we start with you?
Sure. I'm Betty. I'm in Colorado, in a 55 plus community, which has been quite a challenge. But anyway, in fact, the book was recommended by someone in a therapy group that I was in, and I went and got it. And I'm not through it, but I'm only almost half through it. But it was like it was written for me. I have everything underlined. There's check marks. I mean, I have just. God forbid, I don't do books this way, but it is a working book. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm in Canada in Pickering, which is in Ontario. Yes, I've read The Untethered Soul many times. I've got it bookmarked, and I've also last night I read it over several times, but last night I also watched an interview with Michael just to get myself around. So he was being interviewed about his book, The Untethered or The Tethered Life. But it's connected to this book. I haven't read the book that he was interviewed about, but when he was talking, it reminded me very much of this. And for me, the thing that always this book deals with when I'm thinking about this book is I'm thinking always about that quote in the book about you are not the voice of the mind, you are the one who hears it. And that is forever my challenge. I'm always trying to understand what that really truly means. So I'm really excited to be in part of the group.
I'm in Austin, Texas area. I've been following you for about 15 years, just curious about the Jungian personality types and how human minds work. And my relationship with the Untethered Soul is that I found it about 10, 15 years ago, right after it was written, read it, did the this is what I want to do with my life, think this through. And then you just kind of let it go and you get kind of back to who you were. COVID hits, everything changes. And now I'm a school bus driver. So not a lot of opportunity to really delve into mind work right now. So I wanted to do something that got me back into it, and this group seemed like a great opportunity.
Hey, so I'm Julie and I'm in Ottawa, Canada, so as well in Ontario, where we just had another snowfall last night. So we were shoveling this morning. Um, I read a lot of different books and contrary to what everyone else has been saying, I've had a lot of difficulty with this book, getting into it. I'm halfway through, and I think there's a lot of resemblance with other writers that I've read. I'm very interested in Jung. As I was reading this one, I also kept reading James Hollis because I'm a big James Hollis fan. And it's not the first time I pick it up. I've been picking it up many, many times, and I can't get into it. So that's my personal view. But I'm very open to hear what other people have to say.
I think there are some stones we trip over when we're coming at this from a Jungian lens. Yeah. And I'm really curious. This is what I love, the differences. And so I'm calling on you to introduce yourself in the order that I see you on my screen. So some of you haven't said hello yet, but Marie just popped in. Marie,
Hello.
so we're doing a little bit different than the normal groups. It's who are you, how are you, and what's your relationship to the Untethered Soul? Like, have you read it before? Do you know it? Was it new? Everybody's kind of different.
Okay, my name's Marie. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I became acquainted with Jennifer a couple of years ago, maybe during COVID or maybe right before COVID. And I had not read The Untethered Soul, though I never seemed to have time to work on my inner self until various things would happen, knee surgery, divorce, and actually it was before COVID with Jennifer that decided, okay, I'm getting older. I need to look at who I am again. How did I relate to it?
Well, just more like what's your relate. This is kind of our intro. So
Okay.
have you read it before? Was this the first time
Yeah.
through? So you're like me. You and I are
this is
brand new to the book.
That's right. When you said you had you didn't know anybody else who hadn't read it? It's like,
You said you were the
I
only
haven't
other person.
read
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you so much. So we'll get into more discussions about it, but it's just more like, what's your relationship
Okay.
to this text? Because some people have read it multiple times. It's been their Bible, and for some of us who are coming at it with fresh eyes. So, Lynn, Lyn, who are
Hi,
you? Where are you? And what's your relationship to the untethered soul?
I'm Lynn, and I'm in North Texas, near Dallas, Fort Worth area. And I am so excited. This is the book we're talking about because I thought I was a week behind. And I've been trying to get through that book and thinking, darn, I wish I had gone to book club last week. So I'm 71% through the book on Audible. Um,
Oh, good. Okay. You weren't trying to get through Ram Dass before today, were you? Because I couldn't
no,
believe
no,
that
because
I,
I was
okay.
like, I maybe I have to jump over that book and try the next one. But
I know. I kind of was the when I got it in the mail. I was like, am I crazy? Like I'm a masochist, but we're going to do it. We'll see what we could do. Thank you,
I think
Lynn. Okay.
it's intriguing. Yes, I'm
Good.
intrigued.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So Meredith Burke.
Hi, I'm in Austin, and I thought I had when I saw that we were going to be doing this book, I thought, oh, I've got that book somewhere, and I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it, and I realized I must have donated it.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. It just didn't quite,
Didn't quite.
it
Okay.
didn't quite do it, but I did the audio of it. I'm about halfway through it. And like some other people, I have a Jungian appreciation, and James Hollis, I listened to him as well. And, I'm asking some questions about this, and sometimes it resonates and sometimes it's like, but what about, I just, something quite doesn't quite hit it for me. So I'd love this discussion. And, like I said, I'm only halfway through, so maybe there's something more in it that I can, discover. So thank you.
So I'm Noelle, and I'm in Toronto, and we didn't get any snow last night. We're in a melt here. I had bought this book a few years ago and started to read it. I've now gotten past the place that I was before and finding more resonance. I think I bogged down earlier, but finding much more resonance with it this time at the halfway mark.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. So the people who are their video is off and their audio is off are just kind of wanting to watch and listen, which is everybody's welcome to do that. I'm going to ask you guys for feedback on this. The way I want to approach each text is starting with a few fundamental questions, which is why, when we look at a book, why do we listen? And then maybe we'll go through them one at a time. But I'm going to tell you what my sort of 4 or 5 questions are that I would love to hear from you guys on every book we read. Starting with why do we listen to this author? Are they a credible expert? This is coming from my critique of a lot of 38-year-olds who have got big YouTube bases and write best-selling books, and whether or not we feel like, is this a person I want to listen to? Has she traversed some of the terrain that I have had to traverse, especially as an aging woman? So that's going to be a question of like, is he credible? Like, do we listen to him? Ram Dass, James Hollis, stuff like that. The next question that I kind of as a lens for each text, what do they suggest our problem is? And does the way they describe our problem as a human or the human condition, does it kind of match with how you would describe that for yourself? Or would you describe it differently? Right? Like, I think that might be some of where people tripped over him who are coming at this with a Jungian lens. Like, what does this author suggest our problem is? And does what he suggests the problem is match what you feel like you're struggling with personally? I really want this to kind of come into your lived experience where you're like, no, my husband's got Alzheimer's and my kid is a heroin addict and this doesn't match, right? Like that, this is harder challenges sometimes. Then also we'll kind of go into the question of what does this author suggest our solution is? And then not just what the solution is, but what is the specific methodology? Okay, you're telling me to like stop my thoughts, but like how? Like, do they offer us a methodology? And then for our group specific, how does this text apply to our specific questions about aging and older women? Because I know that for some of us, you probably were reading to this text and saying the problems he's describing are not problems I have. I don't want the race car and I don't care if my neighbors think I'm weird. Like, I'm good on that. but can we still find this useful and apply it to questions of aging and older women? And that's kind of where I feel like you guys have to pick up the baton that he set down, pick it up and say, this is how it is or is not relevant, and offer something new that we can all use. So that's kind of where does that sound like a good discussion frame?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Does.
So can I throw a question out, and then at this point I do popcorn, and we're going to see at some point popcorn, like meaning you just start talking and we hope that it works out. I think of this size group, it's fine, but as the group gets larger, I might need to put the questions into breakout group. But this is the top level of how many people I think that works for. So I'm just going to do popcorn and we're going to see how this goes. What I want to ask you guys is, why do we listen to Michael Singer? I mean, or do you think he's a credible expert? Yes or no? And this is going to be kind of quick, but why do you think, okay, I listen to this guy? Anybody have a thought of like, this is why I think when he talks about how to live, I'm like, all right, I'm listening. Who has
Hey,
a
listen, I got the book because it was recommended by someone that was actually in one of your groups that I was really impressed with her outlook on life and situations when I'm going, dang, I wish I was more like that. So when I got the book, it talked to me because it's talking about all my inner dialogue, which I have so much of it. And like I said, I've underlined everything. I don't know, maybe if I have a condition, I don't know, but I have an inner voice that I actually have to listen to an iPad to go to sleep so I can stop my mind thinking. I'm only maybe a third through it, so I haven't found a solution. The only thing I've tried to do is the roommate thing he talks about. That doesn't work for me. But how he's qualified, I'm not really sure, other than it seemed like he knew who I was. So he was
Okay.
like,
So he was describing you. So both the
Totally.
recommendation from somebody that you respect, as well as this person just is describing my problem. So now I'm
Mhm.
listening. Okay, that's
Yeah.
a good reason. Yeah, to listen to him. Who else has a reason why they think, is that Noelle?
Yes. I had read one of his earlier books, and not till I get back to my desk can I tell you which one it is, and I have really enjoyed that. When I started digging into it again this time, the whole monkey mind chatter thing is so real. I've learned to tame some of it through meditation over time, and I can actually get free of all the chatter at times. And where I got to in the book was talking about, the joy that's under all of that. If you can get rid of sort of all the stuff that's on top, and I had experienced that before in life in a relationship. And when I started clearing the monkey mind, I thought, yeah, it's still under there. It's not tied to somebody. He's right in that it's there. It's just, I clutter it up with other things.
So he mirrored your experience in a positive way. Like Betty was even saying, like, I understand this in a frustrating way, but you're saying, the way he talks about feeling well, I've had that experience. And so I know this is true for me.
Yeah.
That's
well,
another...
and reading him made it it made me listen in a deeper way and go, yeah, he is right. There is joy bubbling up in that. How do I foster more of that? So.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And you don't have to have everybody in. Go ahead.
So it wasn't mirroring what I thought, but it was leading me to a new thought of, oh, there's something more there I can be discovering more of.
I feel hope when I read him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't want everybody to feel like they have to answer this question. So does anybody else feel like they want to, because I love hearing the different reasons why we do or do not. My reason is different than what I've heard so far, so I'll share mine. But Lynn, no? Yeah. Oh, you remuted yourself when you tried to unmute.
I thought it was interesting that our first book was written by a man, and actually several of them are written by men. And that struck me. I like what he's talking about consciousness and there being the observer, and that there's something in there beyond our senses or our awareness. But anyway, I have tried to look into his background a little bit, and I think he's an interesting character. And so I'm listening to it because you recommended it, and it has brought me interesting thoughts.
Yes.
I'm not sure that this hasn't a specific answer, but I'm not finished either.
Nice. I think you do get most of it in the first part of the book. Yeah, I think that some of what Lynn said is kind of what I do. Is like I research the person. Like, what is their biography? Like, do I think that they've lived? Like I like Pema Chodron, but sometimes when she was really or that Eat, Pray, Love book, I'm like, when your heart, not that divorce is not hard, but some of the people that come to our groups have been through really hard things. And sometimes I feel like we're hearing stories from people in books. You're like, okay, well, if that was your hardest thing, then I'm not sure if you can speak to what I'm coping with here. So, I like to research biographies always. And for me, I think I read that he had some sort of spiritual epiphany, which kind of catches my attention when it's like had a spiritual epiphany, you wrote a book and everybody liked it. That perks my ears up. But yeah, that researching who they are. And then speaking to the male author thing, wow, I didn't even think about that. But it's really important. And there is a dearth of feminist women authors on some of these topics. I've read a lot of them. But I think it's an important thing to continue to keep in the front of our minds. Julie, Desmarais?
Yeah, I just I'm listening to people and I come at it from a very different angle. I've read a lot, Goldstein, Tara Brach,
Mm-hmm.
a lot on Buddhism. I was just reading Joan Halifax's book, so I've read a lot of different things, and I think he has a different experience. I mean, Tara Brach has been publishing, her husband and all that, Goldstein and all these people. And I was wondering, because I read them and I find them clearer for me to
You
understand.
find them what's the word, clearer?
More clear to understand. I find he kind of talks, but to me, I think, what's he trying to tell me? I'm not sure. And the other thing is, what made him so popular? When I find other books are a lot more accessible, I find personally, than he is. So that's why I have great reserves. And I do like you, I've researched him. And I'm thinking, okay, are you like a one book wonder where other people have, they have a tradition. They've been doing this for, I'm thinking of, for 40 years. They've been meditating for 40 years. They've been doing this for 40 years. And so that's why I think, oh, you had an epiphany. Maybe I'll have an epiphany tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe I'll write a bestseller and that will be it. So I'm just a little bit more skeptical when it comes to, I will read all of it and I try to keep an open mind. Maybe I will change my mind. I'm not sure. But I was just a little bit more skeptical. It says here, more than 3 million copies sold. So obviously there was a need when he came out that people needed to read him. So anyways, I'm just a little bit more reserved.
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Julie. Because that's what I'm thinking of some of the stuff you said.
I'd like to address that one because I've read it twice now. The first time I read it, I was in my 30s. And I was going through the beginning of parenting. My oldest child was diagnosed autistic. He's an adult now. He's not autistic. I was trying to figure out why my head just could not turn off and had to solve all the problems. And Singer seems to approach this problem as if it's easy. You just want to stop smoking? Never pick up a cigarette again. I challenge anybody to take some addiction or some aspect of their personality that's dominant and say, never do it again. That's like saying, turn yourself off. Do we really want to turn ourselves off or do we want to understand ourselves?
Woo.
So this time, when I listened to it, I was very skeptical. And the voice in my head was going, you're an idiot. You don't understand this stuff. I work with autistic children. So I'm watching how the human mind works when it's not optimum and trying to figure out how does this stuff apply to us as we get older, as our minds change, as we may be losing some of our dominant features, taking on tertiary, becoming somebody different. So that's kind of where my head is when I was watching it. And I found it very simplistic this time around.
Wow,
as opposed to the first time in my 30s, it was so deep and meaningful. And I was listening to paragraphs over and over again and underlining and doing all that. And this time I was like, okay, am I above that or am I below it? Maybe I've changed so much that it's not resonating anymore.
So this is what's so beautiful in that hermeneutics word that I was using is I feel like every 10 years, we're just like almost these completely different people and reading his texts coming at them with a totally different lived experience. And then every single one of you is bringing in together, like, this is me and all the books I've read, plus this book. And now I come to the little potluck and this is my contribution. But yeah, so for you, it's changed over time. What Julie was saying before, other Julie, it reminded me of what you were talking about, typology, and that this, before the meeting started, Julie was saying, I listened to this through the lens of Jung's psychological types and whether or not this is suited better for a particular typology than me right now, which was kind of like, oh, what if you read this through the lens of Jung's psychological types, So that kind of reminded me, but thank you. Okay. As a quick aside, I don't know. For those, I kept reading it thinking that he was going to close the loop. My feeling was the last half of the book was, I liked the book. I felt like it was useful to me, didn't mirror me completely, but I did not feel like finishing the book answered any questions that I was imagining would be answered if I kept reading. I kind of felt like, I've got it. And then I did kind of write a little bit in the margins, repeat, as I was going through the last half of it. But I liked the book. So here's another question, like, which we'll be hitting every book with. What does he suggest our problem is? And does his description of the problem match the problems that you're sort of struggling with in your life right now? Not struggling with, but like areas where you're still trying to grow. Like we've talked about, he talks, what I'm going to let you guys answer. What does he suggest the problem is, the kind of the human condition? And does his suggestion match your lived experience?
Well, I would like to address this because I like what I've gathered is that you're supposed to like step back behind your reaction, behind your thoughts and your emotions and sensations. And I think that has its place, but I just kept thinking about people, like think about someone in a concentration camp or someone who's being abused, or like you can't just step behind those types of problems, and you need your thoughts to help you problem solve.
Beautiful. You need your
So
thoughts, I think, is a
that's where I
super
was wondering, what
important.
about,
hmm
yeah, like real tragedies?
Yeah, to me, that's going to be our fourth question. How does this apply to us? How do we deal with real tragedies, not I want a race car? And that other question of you need your thoughts, because one of the things where I was tripping up on him, and I didn't want to get too far afield, but his description of language as being just condemned as a problem, or the narration of the world in my mind as being a problem. I love phenomenology and I love hermeneutics and I love imagining that we have this lived experience and that we organize ourselves in language. We organize ourselves in stories and they are dynamic. But to me, it's a necessary kind of like you need your thoughts. They can go pathological, but we do know what witnessing awareness would look like. But I'm like, the whole idea of narrating my world is wrong. I was like, I don't know. I think that's sort of my method of being in the world in an organized way and not psychotic. So you need your thoughts. And how do we deal with extreme suffering? Yeah.
Can I ask a
Cool.
really weird question?
Yeah.
How many people in the group would say that their thoughts are pictorial versus auditory?
Oh, this is a good question. Now you're into Jungian types.
Mine's pictorial.
Okay. Did it resonate with you as a pictorial thought person versus somebody who's like, I've got constant narration in my head and no pictures?
I think I have both.
Okay.
I definitely have both. And it varies on the scene or the problem or the issue or the situation, for me.
So did the book speak to you in terms of kind of sitting behind your narration thoughts versus your pictorial thoughts?
How should I say it? It spoke to me, but that was one of the questions I was going to have for Jennifer, because I need some of those narratives and pictorial thoughts. With the narrative, with the narrative now comes the pictures. And I have needed those or used those in my practice or medicine or questions in my life. I think the question for me and Singer, and he didn't I don't know how to deal with this still. What is like my inner guide telling me about me or the situation or this patient versus am I getting caught into a, a dynamic that into an old dynamic? And I like to think out of the box, at least for my patients and hopefully for myself. And so it's still a struggle for me. And I don't know that he answered that. And it's like, I need that in order to have the spiritual growth. Yes, it's been important to get out, but those other, whatever they are, those talks kind of have led me to good places sometimes.
Yeah.
More for my patients, but sometimes for me. And I don't know how to balance that.
I feel like it's an important question that Julie's asking because, and it's not one that I would have asked. I know that I've had the experience of listening to people and thinking, she thinks in images and she's operating in a different plane. I'm thinking in words. And so that's the only, so when Julie asked that question of who here thinks in images, I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what that means really, or how that's a different lived experience. Julie, were you saying that you think in words? Oh, wait, Noelle's going to say something too.
I haven't quite figured out how to get the raise the hand on the bottom of the panel, so sorry. And sorry, I was just coming home.
We're old school, man. We're doing this because I don't know how to see them. I don't know how to see the hands.
I have all the way there in the group, so
okay.
Yeah. And my apologies. I was just coming home from church and trying to catch you before I head home. So to what Marie was saying, I find the mind chatter is like this. I think Julie was talking about narrative. It's this incessant narrative of, you know, all the brilliant things I'd have said to somebody if I just thought of them at the time, or, you know, who did me wrong, or it's the sense of my spirit and what guides me comes from a much quieter voice, kind of deeper in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is some usefulness in the mind chatter, not a lot. But if I can clear it more, I have more capacity to listen to what's coming up from within my body that is actually my spirit guide. So
It's like we're using different words. We have spirit guide. We have him saying conscious awareness. I feel like coming from a Jungian tradition, it would be the self with a capital S. But we're all, or spirit, he says, he uses a lot of those Indian words like Shakti, I think maybe more energy. So yeah, but it's beautiful because we're using different words. The way he uses psyche is such a problem if you're coming out of other traditions. Okay, so continue you guys talking about what does he suggest our problem is, and does his description describe your challenge or not? I mean, sometimes it's frustrating when you're like, dude, that's what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm not dealing with that. But does anybody else have anything in response to that or in response to something else?
I do as far as it relating, like I happened to just open a page that I had read and underlined. So it was a random pick and it said, you could be the type of person who has an underlying fear of people and tend to close when you first meet them, which has been a problem with me because I moved here a year ago from Texas. So it's been hard for me to adjust. So, I mean, I related to that totally. And it said you'd be in the habit of experiencing uptight closing sensation when anybody walks up to you. But then he says you can train yourself to do the opposite, which he didn't tell me how to do that.
Exactly. This is the next question then. So what does he suggest? Let's move into it. And I think he kind of does. So I tried to really go through there and tease out, like, what does he suggest our solution is? What is the method? So he says something like the nonstop chatter of our brain is a problem. But I think that gets really tricky. And he starts saying, that's not you, and that's not you. And a Jungian might say, well, that's my complex, and that's part of me. And then when you read him later, he does sort of say, these are other parts of you. And you're like, okay, you're being inconsistent, but I'm going to let it go. But to sit in the seat of conscious awareness, the solution of that, like, and then like Julie was saying, okay, stop. You know, it reminds me of that old film, Stop It, and then here, $5 or whatever that old scene was from that therapist years ago. I can't remember his name, but just stop it seems to be one method. But he does talk about like not closing. What is the method? What is his method? What did you guys take? Like, what's the method? What are we supposed to do? We're listening to him.
Well, he says to fall behind. He says go behind the thought.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
guess you're supposed to observe it is
Observe feels like a useful word to
They
observe. And that,
understand it. I mean, why are we thinking that? I mean, in my particular case, with my background in history, do have a hesitation on being open to people and receptive. So maybe he's
yes.
saying that it's our history and we need to close that chapter or heal. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I would say that one thing that I did pick up that I loved was he was saying we don't have to figure it out. Like he was almost speaking against the therapeutic practice of you don't need to figure out why you're mad that your neighbor is planting red roses. He didn't say that, but something like that. You just need to what Lynn said. You just need to observe how curious. I'm mad that my neighbor is planting red roses. I don't need to be like, well, my grandmother had red roses and I hated her, you know. So there was something there. Like he was saying, I felt like in terms of method, he was saying we don't need to dig into old trauma stories. We need to be the witness of, which feels credible, right? Like that's not a totally nonsense phrase, Julie.
He
Oh, sorry.
felt a,
Other Julie, Julie
oh,
D.
which
Demery.
one?
Sorry.
I don't care. You can go
So,
first.
so it's very interesting what you're saying because I've done therapy, group therapy, all different types because I'm interested in knowing how my brain works. I do agree that we do have too much inner chatter, and we have to fall back and discern what's important and what's not, and trauma. But when you're talking about curiosity, it seems more and more now in therapy that we're going towards somatic issues. And I've just finished because I'm interested.
Yeah.
A group therapy, and one of the key words was always be curious about what's happening. So you've all said it, So I'm having these thoughts, and how can I slow down my thoughts? And I don't believe you can stop instantly because we're not wired that way. It takes work, and everything we want to do will take work. But it's like, okay, so I'm angry, or I'm pissed off that my neighbor is doing this. Now, and then you have to go back and say, oh, it takes work to do this, but then you have to go back and say, why am I? And so I will be curious and what's behind all of this. And sometimes there's trauma issues. Something happened in my past. I'm being triggered. I'm reacting. So now it seems my therapist does a lot of somatic work to release a lot of the stuff. And then once you release it, let's say you get rid of the anger or the restlessness, then you're in a position to be a lot more curious. And it always brings me back to Ted Lasso. I don't know if all of you have watched it or not, that Jason Sudeikis show with the football in England or whatever. And there's a segment where he says, be curious, not judgmental. And that's Walt Whitman, I believe, who said that. So yeah, it's a very interesting segment. So because when you're curious, you discover things that you would not normally. So what we need to do with the somatic work, with the breathing exercises, with the meditation, is calm down the nervous system, regulate the nervous system. So he doesn't talk about that because he's not there yet, I believe, in the what's happening now. So it's ubiquitous. Vagus nerve, nervous system, regulate. But once you can and you figure out how to do that through somatic work, through whatever, then you can step behind your thought and say, okay, so why? There's a reason I'm having these thoughts. There's a reason I'm having this inner dialogue. So I'm not going to judge myself for it. So why am I having these thoughts? I'm going to be curious about it.
It's so nice.
A solution, but
beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm going to let Julie B go. We all have, that's such good stuff. I love how it's a little more complicated. There's a little more threads to the tapestry. Yeah. And it's a beautiful tapestry. Julie B.
I'm agreeing wholeheartedly with Julie D that we're now talking about nervous system regulation instead of just pure meditation and observation. But I was thinking that his prescription of just observe and kind of sit behind the self was a little bit like lucid dreaming. where you just kind of wake up to it and you realize, oh, I'm having all of these feelings or emotions, and I don't have to actually talk about them. So a little bit like our super intellectual technological men who will just sit there and go, oh, I'm not dealing with those emotions. I'm just going to push them down and stand above them. Emotion, what's that? I don't
Yeah.
have to relate to that. But it also made me think that his prescription was, as I said in the beginning, oh, you've got an addiction, just stop it.
Mhm.
And if we start dealing with dreaming, then we start observing. So that's all I really had to say about that.
Beautiful. And what I liked about what Julie D and both you said is, in my groups, there's something delightful about the curiosity of the journey. There's something enriching my observation and listening to women's stories is that every decade that when they kind of go over the old tapestry of their life again and again, they find something beautiful and interesting and they think about it in a new way. And it continues to be this fabric that's sort of like is delightful. And when Julie D was talking, I thought we can feel the difference. Like, am I ruminating? Is this sort of a downward spiral? And I like the language that she brought in. It was like, or is it curiosity that's leading to discovery? It feels to me like that's a method that we could take, right? Am I ruminating and thinking about my history and poor me and my trauma in a way that's digging down, or am I feeling curious and leading to discovery? Those feel like useful words to me that we should add to our method. Curiosity, is this doing that? Julie D.
And just one last thought I have on this is, and I think it was brought up by Marie, but when we were talking about inner guidance, self, and I find it's important to step back too, because as you get older, you cannot always doubt yourself. You cannot always think, oh, someone else has the answer, because you live with you. You live inside you. You know what's going on. You understand your past, your present. You don't know what your future is going to be. And I believe in a lot of the Buddhist traditions as well, impermanence and all that. But I think you have to. I take a step back now and I say, okay, this is how this author feels, and this is what they want to tell me. And then I need to step back and say, is this good for me? Because I need to trust who I am with all of this, because otherwise I'd be like, oh, I would never know who I am. I would always say, oh, so this is the flavor of the month. The flavor of the month, like as I said earlier, is somatic now.
Yeah.
Everybody, and then everybody read The Body Kept the Score. So everybody's doing that now. So it's like, okay, so that's this, or IFS, internal family system. So that's the flavor of the month. But if you don't take the time to figure out who you are and stop the internal chatter sometimes and to say, yeah, I find there's just so much information, you get confused and you stop trusting who you are. And I think it's very important to I think as I said, I think it was Maria was saying that your inner self, your inner guidance. And that's where I find James Hollis goes when he talks more about, I haven't finished the book, so I can't, maybe he will talk more about the soul, but that we do have a soul inside. And sometimes we lose track of it, or we are so caught up in life that we think, wait a second. So I think that's very important to trust this part of us. So
Yes. I feel like two super important things that Julie's saying there. One is reminding us to trust that inner guidance. And that is a premise of my groups is I believe that there's something in her that is guiding us, right? Like that we can all facilitate this out of each other, but I'm operating from the belief that there is something in each person that's going to bring what she needs. And she's going to offer something new to our group. And that's also the language that I can be pretty emphatic about, because I've felt extremely frustrated in some Jungian trainings. That's where that language, if it sounds angry when I'm writing it, what did Jung say? But that's not what Jung said. What did Jung say? But what did Jung say? And I'm like, we're not doing that at all. We're saying, what did Lynn say? What did Noelle say? Like, we are on equal footing with these authors in our lived experiences and our own biographies. They're not the authority that we're trying to memorize. This group is a group of women in conversation intelligently with these texts. So I love it because it's a good group. I think you can see. Who else has something they want to jump in? Noelle.
I'm interested in the discussion because for me, what it's coming back to is this is a body, mind, and spirit discernment. It's being able to answer, as Julie was saying. I mean, it's been very somatic, and I find Melanie Tonia Evans' work on dealing with
Wait,
narcissists and things
okay.
is very important for body clearing exercises and things. I'm a writer by trade, but I'm a spiritual director who leads a lot of workshops and things. And I find that often people need to clear some of the body stuff to shut down some of the mind chatter to get to kind of some of the spirit stuff. So for me, it's kind of multidimensional. So I'm interested in how the discussion's going because this may answer one piece of it, but it's a bigger picture than that.
Body, mind, spirit, discernment, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that's exciting stuff. I'm interested in the body coming online, similar to what has been discussed in somatic, but as I read the medieval women mystics who were sort of lost in some of the Catholic Church and how they can sort of be a part of that, how embodied their spiritual journey was, how sometimes sexual it sounded, and what is Eros energy, what is the body, what is, how is the body also like this bringing something online? I don't know the answers, but I feel like when we look at those women writers in the medieval era who didn't get to participate in the mainstream discourse about spirituality, they talked about having things that literally sounded like orgasms. And so you're saying like, what's going on here? What's the body doing for her that's really bringing her to a space that we still read her book 500, 600 years later? So there's something about body, mind, spirit discernment that I think continue. Thank you, Noelle. That's going to be,
Can
man,
you
this is.
mention that author again, Noelle? Did you mention
Oh,
her
yeah,
name
I
for
didn't
an
know her
author?
name. Who was it?
Melanie Tonia Evans. Let me see if I can grab it and give you the title.
My hope is that you guys will use the Google group to sort of, I'm still learning how to use it, but like to start conversations. Narcissistic. Okay.
So it's You Can Thrive After Narcissistic Abuse. And she has about 10 body clearing exercises in it, which I've actually done in groups of 70 women. Now, depending on how much they engage it, people do find even on an introductory level that's helpful. But when I was trying to clear out some very heavy stuff, I found some of what she does is very helpful.
And you run workshops and you say it works, right? Because there's a lot of books out there on narcissism, and you're like, I know a lot about this space, and this is a book where her methods work. So
I found
nice.
they did for me, and they have for some people who've given me feedback. So, and then you see the ones in the room who are kind of studying the ceiling, so it's not for everybody.
Yeah, which is true for this text as well. Okay. What about, as the last question that will apply to every text is, and we've touched it a little bit, but how does his method, which we might describe as, you guys can correct me, because we've adapted it a little bit. If the method is to develop a witnessing awareness that is kind of watching ourselves in this world, right? Not being reactive, but having this thoughtful witnessing, maybe we'll be more permissive with narrative, maybe we'll be more permissive with the felt experience of the world. But how does his method of developing this witnessing consciousness, how does that apply or help us as we think about aging and some of the bigger challenges that face you and women and what the decades ahead would look like? What's useful from him as we think about, oh my God, I have big problems. Marie.
I didn't pick up on it when I was listening to the book. I'm not reading the book, so sometimes I think I miss out. But as we were talking, and then today before we started, it hit me. So one of the exercises that my therapist used with me during a crisis moment, either with my divorce and at the same time administratively with all these other men, male, at the hospital, was about the observation. And because then when I get so caught up, my emotions get caught up, I'm not the person that I really could be in terms of what I need to say. And he had me do this exercise as if I was watching a play from a chandelier, or I'm director, that way I can observe the different personalities, I can observe the interaction, and then I can come in to see where I really can fit in or have my say. And when he was talking about, I don't know, you're only, it's about being open and closing. And it's true, because all I was doing was just trying to protect myself, whether it was dealing with this, legal case with my ex-husband, or it's trying to deal with some powerful people at the hospital. I would just lose my power. And by observing, more or less, the singer says, you can't make this, you're limited if you're not staying open.
So may I ask a follow-up? So let's talk about something that's harder, like aging. How does this translate? Okay, now my husband has Alzheimer's and I'm taking care of him 24/7 and I don't have enough money. How do we use this method? How does it apply?
Because if you just stay in this area of these are the negatives, these are the difficulties in my life, these are the tragedies, you're not open for other thoughts, other ways, other people. And so I think it really can apply to aging now, because how should I say it? I want to still be open to engage in conversation. I don't want to be limited because, I'm older, I just retired. Who's going to listen to me? Where am I going to go to get interaction? I just know the hospital. So I think it really can apply to us.
Beautiful. And what you're saying reminds me, I'll share briefly. So this was shared in a group recently by a woman who said she had a medical experience. Some of you may have heard this from her, where, there was a lack of memory, and being present with people who had historically been very difficult for her, the only thing she felt was love. And so that was an example of what I think you're saying, Marie, of she seemed to have a curiosity and an openness to what some people might consider a medical catastrophe, to wow, this brought something new into my life, which is it cleaned out all the debris. I didn't know who anybody was. And all I felt was that these people present loved me. And she was just weeping about the beauty of this journey. And so you're like, wow, that's a different lens. That's an openness and a curiosity to what our model might call a medical catastrophe into a spiritual opening. Okay, who else? Yes or no? How does this methodology apply to our specific questions about aging in older women? What's useful for you? Noelle.
I guess I was just in a few conversations post-church with people, some who are quite interested in what you're doing with this group. If we're caught up in the monkey mind of our own thoughts, and the thoughts lead us to as our age, our lives need to shrink. It's a trap. It's a prison that you get yourself into. If you can clear some of that away, and then clear some of the beliefs away, and something actually rises up within you, whatever you want to call that, it opens you to more possibilities. What comes from the internal isn't necessarily all about shutdown. It's all about, yes, we're in a different phase of life, but we're exploring in a different way, or we're taking something. Somebody was talking about reading a book in the 30s and then reading it at this stage. What we see and do can be very different if we're not caught in the trap of being stuck in our mind about, what we've been taught or what we think things should be at this stage.
That feels like a narrative net, right? That feels like where my narration of the life would be a problem, right? I need to loosen it. Like Julie said, curiosity, discovery, body, mind, spirit. Beautiful. Oh, such a good group. You guys are amazing. Kathy.
I am one person who read the book in my 30s and then reread it in my 60s. And I do find I did not really get it in my 30s at all. I read it. I think I probably read it in my 30s because Oprah told me to read it. But otherwise.
Well, that's why 3 million copies sold. I didn't know it was one of her books. Okay. I didn't know.
She introduced him and she was really big on it. And that's probably, I'm going to say that's probably where I got it. But when I reread it, I do feel he is very simplistic about the idea about, just get over it sort of thing. It is what it is. But what I did get from his book is when he talked about resistance, about aging. He didn't talk about aging, but when you were asking me the question about aging, one of the things he said was, be willing to examine the process of resistance. And I have found, and I forget who it was, but it might have been Julie D. I have found that as I've gotten older, I have read everybody, and I am more, I really look at who the author is exactly. I didn't, and because of the fact that I do think I have my own experience, but I have really worked at not resisting aging. In other words, um, I'm not doing things. I try to take care of myself and take care of my body and do the best I can, but I'm acknowledging I'm 66 and I can't do maybe things I did at 30. And there are things I don't want to do that I did at 30. And I'm also loving the fact that I just don't give a damn. So when he talked about a lot of things in life people create problems for themselves because they're so resistant. That resonated with me, that piece.
But at a much deeper level than he said it, I think. I think
Exactly.
what you're offering
Yes.
feels much richer than what is in the text.
Yes. And when I mentioned earlier that I listened to a podcast with him last night with a woman interviewing him. I did remember as he was talking, as he was saying things, I was remembering, yeah, he's got this idea that he wants everything is so simple. I don't think it's as simple because he works a lot in prisons, or he had worked a lot in prisons with a lot of men in prisons. And he was talking about, just because someone's a murderer, that's not all who they are. He was doing all that philosophical stuff, but at the same time, he was just trying to say to the guys, yes, you're in prison and you're in this box, but you're also in this box up here. So you know what I mean? He was trying to get people to step outside. This is your cage that they've put you in, and this is the cage you put yourself in. So change your thinking. All good stuff.
Absolutely.
But he never he never gave steps or solutions to how you do that, like how you step out of it, except it's over.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we're going to interrogate every author on.
Right.
What is their method?
Yeah.
Very
but I did like his thinking around resistance, and I've worked really hard on that as I've aged.
It feels so correct. Yeah, it feels so correct. Like I felt all of that is super useful. I want to throw a question out here, like because Kathy reminded me of it. When he writes like that we all have access to infinite energy. I don't. And if somebody has a method, I want to hear it because I don't. I don't meditate myself into infinite energy. So I guess I still have some spiritual work to do. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm smiling because this reminds me of many years ago, over 25 years ago or so, I went to a Qigong healer, which is like energy work.
Okay.
In your, for the physically putting fingers, energy transpressing into your body, right? And I would leave with little red dots on my skin. So I know something was happening there, right? But I think, when I'm listening to him talk about the, closing of the heart and you got to open up the channels because they're all blocked. I was at, what is it, Bed Bath and Beyond or something, and I was in line, and heard the healer's daughter and son, I recognized them from the clinic, were in line in front of me, and I was looking at them, and they, especially this daughter, she had such this lightness. It's like she was just like so, you could just feel this happiness, just sort of, it's just like she was carefree. And maybe it was a projection or not, but I'm like, you know what? It must be just a wonderful, place of existence that you just don't have. Everything is just, you just la 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 la, we're good, and I'm thinking about that because that's, as I am now, like that's not life, you know what I mean? But it's always
that's why we're together talking.
Yeah, and it's like almost like an escape, I want to escape to this place of everything being, just perfect, So anyway, that's all I wanted to share about that energy work with that. So I think maybe it is, in some energetic way, you can just, them away.
Right. I mean, I think sometimes like as a therapist, sometimes I'll say, like, I am a therapist in the United States. I'm not a guru on a mountain in India. And maybe those people have done that, you know. Maybe there are 87-year-old men with women, whatever, feeling infinite energy. It's not something I have figured out. So, and I'm looking for the woman who says, I have figured out, Jennifer, and it really does work. And I'm open. I really am. I'm just a person who's got like a crushed spine and it hurts and like it's achy and I'm tired. And like, that's like everybody I know. So, that's why I like getting this group together, older women, aging women, real, you know, but still fascinated and open and curious. Right. Noelle.
To go back to what I said when I was still driving was I'm divorced as well after, 31, 32 years, and was involved in a relationship for a couple of years where I remember going to a shaman at one point. And she said, I can just feel the joy bubbling off of you. Like there was just joy, joy, joy. It was bubble, bubble, bubble. And then it turned out he was a serial cheater. So that ended. Um, and
I
somebody I'd known
understand.
for 25 years. So, and I thought I knew him, but I didn't, obviously. And and so I've just lived on kind of an even keel. I'm in a wonderful relationship again now, but I've just been on this even keel. But when I was reading this, the last thing, Wednesday or Thursday, when I was looking at it, it was kind of, oh, when I still the mind, some of that joy is still like it's like feathers in there now. And I thought, oh, I don't need someone else to generate that energy for me. It's actually, and he was saying that and I was thinking, is it true? But there was actually that kind of energy in there. And for me, one of my challenges is, how do I generate more joy? How do I live out
Joy.
the joy? How do I take that little feather of a little tumble and turn it into what I got when I was with him, which I would never get from him again? So how do I do that for myself?
Right. And we know that there's something true about love and not resisting and openness and curiosity and observing that feels true. Right? Does that feel right? I guess.
For me, it was actually literally an energetic tumble. Like it was just this that was it
Yeah.
was kind of like a little whirlwind, like one of those little dust things that kind of go around. And it was, and I've done a lot of I'm Reiki trained and things as well, therapeutic touch trained. So whether I'm more sensitive to the energy, but there was something in there that went, whoa, like there's something there you can play with, something more you can work with
Okay.
to,
Good.
to heighten that in some way because I felt it in another context, but it doesn't need to be tied to someone else.
See, what you're saying, Noelle, fascinates me
Interesting.
because I had previously read, I can't remember the name of the girl that lived with Ram Dass, and they all lived in a commune somewhere in the Southwest. And she's translated a lot of these medieval women mystics. And I love her translations, but she talked so frequently about finding the transcendent truth through a romantic relationship, which felt frustrating to me. But it felt like, oh my God, she's so smart and she's so wise. And it seems like it really can be a vehicle. So there's something about the body and the erotic that might be true there. And I don't mean to go off on a totally different tangent. Marie.
Well, something that Noelle said, I mean, I think that joy, whether we have a memory of it or experiencing now, um, it is contagious. But I think also as an older woman, it's important not to have the contagion of age hit
Say that
us.
again. The contagion what?
The contagion of age or
Mm-hmm.
aging hit us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reminded of this by Kay. I call her Kayisms because she has so many wonderful things. She was an Army nurse and probably one of the best nurses I've ever worked with. And we get together for lunch periodically. And she says, the one thing that I miss about being in the operating room, she said, is that I miss the younger nurses. They don't have our work ethic, but they talk about vibrant stuff, even if it's stupid stuff. She says, and what we're talking about, not the two of us, because we would never do that, but her neighbors. And she says, is, we didn't take out the garbage. Somebody didn't pick up the garbage at the right time, or somebody didn't do this at the right time. And we were talking about the contagious part of aging, which we don't want to fall into that trap, is yes, you may have your problems. She had breast cancer. She now has neuropathy, but she's the most dynamic person still, commanding life and funny and joy, her Kayisms. in spite of her age.
Beautiful.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's our goal here, isn't it? That's our goal here, I
that's the
hope.
goal. That's important. And that's why I really like this group. Thank you,
Ooh,
Jennifer.
it's a lovely group, man. I just throw a bunch of women together and it's awesome. That's
Yes.
that body, mind, spirit thing. And then Julie B has her hand up, and I'm learning how to notice it. Okay.
Here, I'll lower it. Just as a precursor to what I'm going to say, I went through menopause at 38 without knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 54 now, but I feel like my body's a lot older. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about joy, I remember the stage where all of a sudden I just feel love towards everyone. And I thought of it more as an oxytocin
Uh-huh.
event, like from menopause and hormones coming and going. And at 54, I've just started hormone replacement therapy. I know it's a little late for it, but I liked not having the hormones because it actually calmed the monkey mind in ways you wouldn't even imagine. Went from voice in the head saying, you should do this, you should do that, to no voice, no pictures, no voice, just sitting back. I was like, wow, there's no hormones left. We
Interesting.
added things very, very slowly, one thing at a time. And I started seeing myself come back online. So I went from being like feeling just completely dead to being like, oh, okay, eroticism. I'm interested in that topic. Oh, love. I want to talk about that again. Oh, what are people like? So I just wanted to throw that out there as older women. One of the things we as society don't talk about are our hormones and how they affect our self, like the deep self.
That's the body, right? That's the
Right.
body. Like it's relevant. I mean, I sometimes say I like working with older women because I'm interested in what women are like when some of those caretaking hormones go away and she starts getting angry. It's interesting. It's
It is.
interesting.
It's very interesting.
And you've walked that in a very conscious way. Julie D.
If there was a very good with what's her name? The woman who run with the wolves, Pinkola.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
He had a maybe a couple of hours with sound. True, I think I listened to it anyways, and it was all about aging women and the crone because we were getting to that stage.
Mhm.
And I find I have daughters that are in their early 30s, and I think it's very important as we are aging to keep having a conversation with younger women. I think, as Julie B was talking about too, there are a lot more. It always seems like it's the well, I'm thinking in French right now, les vedettes. Anyways, the stars that are engaging in menopause discussions. There's a lot more now than when I was. I'm 64. 10 years ago, we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mom doesn't remember anything about it. So if you ask her, no, it wasn't so bad. So I think as women, as we get older, I think that one of the difficult thing is that we're put to pasture. We become invisible. It's especially, I think, in North America, it might not be the same in other cultures, but you get to be over 50, you won't get the same kind of job. You won't get, you're not viewed the same way, which I think is very unfortunate because I know a lot more now than I did 30 years ago when I started having children. And I think our wisdom is very important to be able to share with younger people. Not all younger people are receptive though to what we have to say because I find there's this message in society that we're getting old. We're not relevant anymore. Not the same with men, but women, we still have that patriarchy to deal with on a daily basis. And I think, as Julie B said, that also erodes your own self-worth. So it's like you have a double mountain to climb. You're aging, that's gonna eventually we're all gonna die. So you face that. But there's also this societal way, and then all the women are going and getting, I don't know, was it the Kris Jenner or facelift at 69 or 70, so she looks like she's 35. So it's very difficult, and I think a very important, Jennifer, that you have a group like this one, because we need to have an opportunity to speak, but we also have we need an opportunity to grow and to take our space in society, because we don't always take our space. And I think that's very important. And we all have voices and we all have something to say, but we don't always get forums to say And I think Marie was saying, when she was going through a divorce and all the men at work, and then you're surrounded by men, and it's like, oh, I have to do this again. And I think it's very important to have a community of women.
So that's the social justice aspect of aging,
Yes.
right? Like, how do we, because we've talked a lot about in this group of how do we work on our inner selves, but now you're saying, but there is a space to talk about the world out there and
Because
whether or not we have a responsibility. Yeah.
because you can work on your inner self as much as you want.
Yeah.
However, if and you can feel good. And I think someone was talking about it and how they feel much better about themselves. And I think that's wonderful. But you still have to step out every morning in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You still have that. To me, it's always like a fight. Here I am. I'm still relevant. I still have my thoughts. I still, so I think that's important. So I think you have to work internally. I think you have to do your own work, but you also have to be out in the world.
I think this is going to be a theme for sure in our group. Repeated,
Yeah.
In my book, when I talk about return, that's what I imagine is we're returning to dust, but we're also returning some wisdom, but maybe nobody wants to hear it. And I have the vision of the grandmother at the great grandchild's funeral, she's just sitting there in silence and nobody's asking her questions.
That's why it was so important to listen to Sounds True, the Clarissa.
Yeah, those are excellent.
She was very, very good about the role of the woman.
So good.
Yes.
It's probably her that these images are from. Yeah, those are excellent. Her on Sounds True, and it's on Audible. Noelle, go ahead.
And I think you wouldn't have had this group together if you did not feel this was important for ourselves, individually, but also to get a message across. And I think that's important.
There's something political in what I'm doing, which is I believe that when we get women together, they heal each other and then they create circles of healing around them. And so it's beautiful. Noelle, you're going to say something.
She's muted.
Are you muted? You're muted, Noelle.
Jennifer, I was just agreeing with what you were just saying. And when you create those, there's the old trope that when you help like a woman in a village, you're actually helping most of the village, because of what they do. But I wanted to go back to what Julie was saying about invisibility. This is a big theme for my mother. She's 93, deep in dementia back in Manitoba. But one of the things she'd railed against is feeling invisible when as she was aging. And I was interested to hear Julie talk about it because I don't sense that at all. I just hit 70 at Christmas time. I don't feel invisible, and I don't, maybe where there's any place that there's invisibility, I just exit from that and go on to where I am visible. And I don't need to be, the star of the show or any of those kinds of things. But I hear people talking about it a lot, but I don't actually experience it. Even though I was 58 when my marriage ended. I was 66 when I got my last job, and I'd been in contract work because I'm a writer. So I had been in, I went from doing freelance work to having to get real jobs with benefits and things after my marriage ended. And I got jobs at 58. Now it was always contract work. It always ended. You moved on, but it was happening to people of a lot of other ages as well. And I got my last job at 66 and I quit at 68 to finish a novel that I started 36 years ago, which the first publisher has just rejected this week. So I'm on a journey with that one. But I'm not feeling invisible. I'm not feeling old. And my spiritual director has said, "You don't think you're going to die?" And I go, "Yeah, well,
Interesting. Another theme of, for our
So
group.
whether it's just an internal perspective and I'm just not seeing the blindness out there toward us, or whether there's how you move through the world and what you interface with that moves back your own life and your own energy and your own joy.
I feel like we could have a whole group on this topic, visible versus invisible. I feel like we could talk for an hour and 2 hours. Betty, you wanted to speak to it too?
Yeah, because I was sort of going, when Julie was talking, I'm going, no. When she just said, I agree. I was working for a major corporation. It was 20 years. They were starting to lay off men at 55. I was 53. I said, screw this. It's not going to be me. I'm going to find another job. I didn't retire until I was 70. I found another job at 54, better. I didn't retire until 70 because I loved my work. never felt invisible. I never actually ran. I've never been around old people, so maybe that's why I don't feel invisible or old. I've never had that experience of seeing those
Interesting.
people. And my friends were always younger than me. And I retired only because of political, or I would have still been working. I now I'm in my late 70s. I mean, we're really late. If I go and I'm in a retirement community and I still don't feel old, I see all these old people and I don't relate to them at all. I
Mhm.
don't know who the heck they are. I don't understand them. But I have noticed going to new doctors because I'm in a new place, new facilities and stuff, that they are trying to do the ageism and I'm not allowing it. I will
Interesting.
walk out. I walked out of one place because they were having you fill out all these forms on the computer, their little computer, which I was already pissed off because you had to sign each page. And I was getting a little bit, and somebody can let me do it for you. I'm going, I know how to spell my own name. I mean, I'm not going to allow
Interesting.
it.
Interesting. Okay, you two are definitely the outliers from what I typically hear. So this will be an interesting theme about visible and invisible. I don't want to go too far afield of the book, and we can talk about, I feel like this group we could talk for hours, but I want to also be mindful of people's schedules so that you know, like the meeting does start and end. And we are at about an hour and 15, a little bit over, because you guys are, oh my God, I mean, this is to me fabulous, you guys. Okay, so how does this apply? So I think next week we're going to be talking about, oh Lord, what did I do to us being Ram Dass? I had it on Audible and it was 9 hours. And I was like, oh, I can do that in a week. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll do my best. But we're going to be doing Being Ram Dass next week. It is on Audible. You can listen to it on Audible at regular speed at 9 hours. So that's a little bit more than an hour a day. But do the best you can. If anybody has insights onto maybe you can skip around and maybe my guess would be that last half would be better than the first half, but I don't know. I have actually made it to chapter 12. So, um, anybody have any feedback? Does anybody, who's already read it? Anybody here? I think it was somebody, a client that actually told me to read it. So I did. Okay. So I don't
I'm
even, are
sorry,
you guys,
what is it again? B
this
Rum?
is Being Ram Dass. It's on Audible. I do a lot of Audible, but for the book
Okay.
group, this one's a big book. And I'm picking up The Rules of Estrangement is small, but everybody's saying it's really good to help make sense of the kids today. And then this is James Hollis's. He's dying. And for those of us who love James Hollis, this is a little tiny book. And I just think, he has a lot of interesting things to say. I'm not always, I like him, but I have some problems with him. But I want to see what he has to say. Now, the one that's scaring me to death, but I really want to read, and this is the whole reason I started this book club, is because I can't read this book. I've tried it twice and I've failed twice. And I'm like, I'm going to find some women to make them read it. And, but I don't know if you guys are into this. This is the most accessible. So this one's the February 8th reading. It's also on Audible. But it's supposed to be the most accessible for those of us who are interested in more Eastern approaches and really interested in, he's supposed to be this bridge between, okay, I don't have to learn Sanskrit and I can sort of make sense of what's useful in some of these original texts. Is there anything before I do the closeout, which is I'm going to call on you and I'm going to ask you about how group was, how you are, any closing thoughts? Before we do that, does anybody have like, oh, there's one more really important thing I wanted to say about this book, or something that felt really important that I wanted to mention that you've written down that you wanted to talk about before we kind of go through our close? Okay. Any other things that feel important before we kind of do a closeout? That's good. Okay, then I'm going to go backwards from the bottom up. So basically, let's just say, how are you, and how was book club, and any other like thoughts you have in 120 seconds or less. And can we start with Noelle?
Sure, I'm turned on here. I've enjoyed. Thank you, Jennifer. I read your book. I got it a couple of years ago and finished the 365 Om meditations, 1 minute meditations for women, and was really interested in your broad approach to things. So I joined because I was curious about you and who you are and what you're doing and where you're drawing from. And I said to somebody, if she's reading a book a week, that explains the breadth that you're coming from. But I've enjoyed the very thoughtful discussion with everyone here, the age range, the experience range, the sharing range. So it's been very rich. I probably won't join you every week because I do go to church, and I'm not going to get through all your books that quickly, but really enjoyed the group and hope to join you again.
Thank you, Noelle. Meredith, unmute.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here. I appreciate all of the wise words coming from all the individuals, and I'm the kind of person, my mind just takes it all in and processes it, at my own pace. And so I'm just really, like I said, I really appreciate everyone being here, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Mhm.
Lynn.
Well, I've enjoyed it very much. You're like a role model for me, and I love having communities of women to connect with and talking about important topics like this. So I
Mhm.
appreciate everybody. And I was looking at my calendar. The next one that I am available for is the Tantric book, and I'm glad
Oh,
you showed us how big it is because I think I need to skip the others and just start on that. So I'll
I'm
try
scared
that.
myself with that one. Yeah. And if you're not into it, just skip it. That's the whole point is if it resonates with you, plug in. And if it doesn't, then opt out. So that's good. Thank you. Marie, how are you? How was group?
Um, I'm great and I love the group. I love how you organize the group. And I have not been a big reader for as many people like Julie and everyone else has. I've just stuck to medicine. And I think this is a perfect time with a group that I feel very comfortable with in saying that I am not well read in this area. Um, yeah, it just feels good. So I'll try and get there when I can.
Thank you, Marie. Uh, Julie D, how are you and how was group?
Oh, group is great. I think it's very interesting. Well, thank you for organizing it. I also have been following you for a while now, so I'm always curious to see, what this was going to lead to. And I think it's very important to be able to share. These are books that I would probably not pick up myself. So that's why I chose to also join because I thought, well, it's going to force me to read. And I also think that when you're in a community of women like that, it you get to hear about other experiences and it opens you up to the world and it opens you up to other people. And
Mhm.
so I really appreciate and I thank all of you for being here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what makes it so good. Thank you, Julie. Julie B.
Well,
How,
I really enjoyed the group. I've never done a group before. And although I work with older women, we see each other for about 2 seconds a day in passing. So it was pretty amazing to see the breadth of knowledge from the group. And I think I'm really going to enjoy it.
that's what I love. Yeah, I'm like, throw these women in a group together, man. It's fun. Okay, Kathy, and unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, thank you so much. I enjoy the group as well. I've also been following you for a long time. And I am away in the sun for the next 2 weeks, so I won't, my family's going to Antigua, so I won't be doing those groups. Although I did get the Ram Dass book from the library, so I think I'll read it even if I'm not part of the discussion. Um, but I love reading spiritual texts and particularly books about aging and Crohn's, and I do a lot of art journaling around that. So I really will look forward to being part of the group whenever I can. So thank you.
And as a part of that, what I mentioned to everybody is I am recording this group. So if anybody has a privacy concern later and they don't want me posting this, please let me know. If you want me to blur your face, if you say, please blur where I spoke, please do let me know because there are people who can't attend who say, I want to see it. And I am probably going to be posting these and sharing these. So if that's a concern to you, let me know. And you can email that to me privately. Betty, how are you and how was group?
I'm fine. I thoroughly enjoyed the group. As usual, you attract a variety of women of such wisdom that I'm so overwhelmed at times. But yeah, I definitely be looking forward to the next one.
Excellent. That's the thing is like, I want this to be a serious book club for serious women who like serious conversations around the intellectual, psychological, and spiritual things. It's a well-read group where it's people who are really rich in other dimensions, maybe like Marie, medicine, but it's just like not a like we're drinking wine and trees and we're drunk and we don't know what the book is. Like this is going to be a serious book club for women who really like to think.